Today we're going to start a series called The Secrets of the Energy Body. And some of you have been through some version of what we're going to do before, at least some of what we're going to do before. Nevertheless, it never hurts to hear it 8 or 10 or 20 times, right? Because it'll eventually start to actually soak in. So what we're going to do today is let's take 5 minutes or so and do a few warm-up exercises to get things moving. And then I've got maybe about a 15 or 20-minute slideshow to show you. And then we're going to do some exercises. So it's about half theory and about half exercises, putting that theory to work, right? So let's just start with a little warm-up. So the first half of this warm-up exercise is paida, which means to tap. Right? So what you're doing is tapping on particular acupuncture points in the energy body that will move things along. So this is exactly the same thing that Annie has been doing. She's using a little bag with some adzuki beans in it. You can do it that way, or you can just do it with open palms. If you do it with open palms, cup your palm like this. Because what you're doing is you're not hitting the acupuncture point with your meat body. You're hitting it with this little puff of air. Right? Boom, 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 boom. And this is to stimulate the lymph glands up inside the armpits. More paida. So when you drum the kidneys, don't use closed fists. Use open fists like this. So again, you're hitting the acupuncture points and the organs with air rather than your meat body. And then down onto the tailbone. still open fists. Okay, so we're going to do about a 15 or 20-minute little video here, and then again 15 or 20 minutes of exercises. So make yourselves comfortable to watch this little slideshow, and I will cue it up here. I want you just to watch his body this is slow motion. Watch his body very carefully. Just see if you can pick some points out here. Let's watch it one more time. Watch his hip. You see his hip going out there. He hasn't even moved the bat. And did you notice something else? Watch his hands and arms. He doesn't actually move them.
He moves the body.
What he's moving is his body. When he finally releases, he moves the arm a little bit, but
when you get to this load here, you want to feel the upper gear, the torso tilting, but I think a really good thought also is feel the scap go down your spine. It isn't technically moving, but you can feel the pressure go down your spine. Hold the scap there, and I think if you feel that the center of the vertical gear is the scap, this move here, I'm doing it from a stretch, so I also tilt over my leg as I do it, okay? But I'm coiled, I've pinched my scap into my spine, and then I take my scap right down my spine. My knob points down the corner line, everything's really cool, and when I swing, it just gets exploded through the zone. When you get that right, you'll never use your arms. And the feeling of that, as that upper gear, that vertical gear turns down, it literally feels like you're swinging straight down behind you. That's what the gear is, just like your clock hands. As the minute hand goes down from 12 to 3, or say 12 to 6, the other end of that same hand is going up, okay? So whether you're thinking swing up or swing down, both is happening. Your knob is going up, your barrel's going down, and that's what the propeller shows so well. So what I'm getting at is I'm seeing a lot of people snap the propeller like this, but they're not getting the full torso gear involved with it. Okay, it's almost like their arms are doing it, not their back muscles. Okay? When you get to this load here,
so the reason I wanted to watch this is, one, this guy's a professional. He's a coach for the major league teams as well as anybody else. But look how he is struggling for language. He's talking about the engineering of this move, about the science of this move, but he doesn't really have, or doesn't share with his audience, a technical language that makes it easy to explain what's going on. So he has to resort to metaphors, which is exactly what I do too. But there are certain things that we have in our language, because our language is 400 years old, that he could really use if he knew about him. So one of the things, I'll show you when we get back to the live section, one of the things that he's saying is, you use your body, you don't use your arms. And of course, everybody does just the opposite. They use their arms instead of their body. The second thing is, that's really not intuitive at first. When you use your body, you're using it in what's called a shoe circle, a side-to-side circle, not a ping circle, a level circle, which is what almost everybody does. But if you watch Shohei Ohtani, who's a great hitter, he does it the way this guy is talking about. Let me see if there's one more we can look at here too. Okay, so here's the guy's. These are some of his students here.
he doesn't know when that ball's coming, and he can get up like that, control it. It's money.
good enough. Okay, so I'm like the coach. I'm an old guy who could stand to lose a few pounds, but I'm trying to pass this science along to you guys in this series here. So let's see. Okay, so this is sorry. This is the series we're going to do. All right, Secrets of the Energy Body. This first week we're going to do the horse stance. Next week we're going to do the Dan Chen, the heart of the energy body. The third week we're going to do the central channel, the Zhongmai. The fourth week, the microcosmic orbit. The fifth week, the belt meridian or the belt channel. Sixth, the inner gyroscope, which sort of sums all this up. The seventh week, we'll look at the major acupuncture points that you want to pay attention to in Qigong and in Tai Chi. Week 8, we're going to look at the 13 energies, Peng Lu Jian Sai Lei Zhou Kao, front, back, left, right, center. And week 9, the Hunyan integrity state, which is bringing all of this together, and through that bringing together the four bodies to get back to your original natural energy body. Okay, let's go on to the horse stance. There are 8 different stances in Tai Chi, but the horse stance is by far the most important, and it's the one that you guys are probably going to be doing by far the most of. So if you can get this right, it's actually the foundation of all the other stances. My favorite saying, either you're on the horse or the horse is on you. So this guy's in a horse stance. If you just mentally block out the chestnut horse and just look at this guy's legs, he's in a horse stance. So if you look at his toes, they're out just a little bit. They're not straight ahead. They're out just a little bit. Look at his heels. His heels are down. All right? Look at his knees. His knees are open. Look at his pelvis. The open feet and open knees open up the pelvis. And then he's sitting down in the saddle. All right? So his tailbone is tucked slightly forward. Now this is a pretty tame picture. This picture is much more martial. This is a guy, this is a Mongolian horse warrior, and these guys are incredible on horses. They still are. But if you look at his legs, you'll see he's in a horse stance. I think next time I'm going to come back as a Mongolian. But we're going to do a tamer version of the horse stance than this guy. You'll notice, by the way, that he's riding without holding on to anything.
Doesn't even have stirrups.
So how is he holding on? He's holding on with his legs, with his knees. We're going to do a slightly tamer version of it. Okay, this guy's horse stance and the Gateway Arch in St. Louis have something in common. And this is a really important point. Look at those two arches. What kind of arch is this? This is a very particular kind of arch. You see it in all kinds of traditional architecture, and you see it in some modern architecture. All right? But it's not like a Roman arch. It's a different shape. It's not like a Gothic arch. It's a different shape. So if you were trying to do an arch with your legs, what would be wrong with using a Roman arch? I mean, this is a Roman aqueduct. It stood there for 2,000 years. So why would it not work for the martial arts? Same with the Gothic arch. Gothic arch is terrible for the martial arts. What's wrong with it? What's different between this arch and that arch? And you can tell me when this slideshow's over. Okay, here's some modern architecture. This is by Gaudi in Barcelona in Spain. This is an apartment building that he designed and they built. And you can see these are the same kind of arches as the St. Louis arch. No, this, I love this picture. This is also in that apartment building. These are the attics. Nobody lives up there. Nobody stores anything, but notice they have lights on the floor because tourists come from all over the world just to go through this building. And if you look at the brickwork and tile work, you can see it's just all handmade. These are also the same kind of arches. Very natural. This is a crew of house builders in, I think, Namibia, building a traditional house, which is just unbelievably gorgeous. This shape of this building is exactly the same. These arches and domes are also the same kind of arches. So, and this is 1,000 years old, so they're very sturdy. This is a modern bamboo structure, and underneath the hairy toppings there, it's the same kind of arch. Here's a natural arch in, I think, Natural Arches National Monument. This is a very low arch, but it's the same kind of arch. So what kind of arch is that? This is actually an upside down photo, but this is, of course, a spider web with dew on it. All these arches are the same kind of arch. Here's the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, also designed by Gaudi, and after 100 years, they're still building it. It may be a little hard to see because the arches are very extended, but every one of those towers is built along exactly the same kind of arches. And here is a cross-section of some of the arches. So you can see it's the same kind of arch. And this is how Gaudi designed and built his cathedral and his other buildings. He would take chains and hang them on the ceiling and then adjust the size, etc., etc. And if you took a photograph of it and then turned it upside down, those are his arches. It's called a catenary arch. Catenary means chain in Latin, and the arch is designed simply by taking both ends, nailing them to a wall or a ceiling, and then tracing out that arch and inverting it. That's a catenary arch. And the great advantage to it is is the compression is perfect all the way along. So the compression, the weight of the arch itself and anything resting on the arch is taken down through the members of the arch into the ground with absolutely no strain. So if we go back up here to the Roman arches, you cannot do that with a Roman arch. If we were to take all the arches out and left just one arch, that arch would tend to break. Would tend to break at the point where the semicircular arch, because it is a semicircle, just these are circular arches, meets the up and down member. It would have too much strain on it. They knew that in the Middle Ages when they built their cathedrals, so they had to put what are called flying buttresses onto the arch to keep the thing from falling apart. Unfortunately for human beings, we cannot use flying buttresses on our bodies. The Gothic arch is also bad. Notice the pointed member of the arch where the arch comes up and meets. It's very beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it in architecture because each arch in the series reinforces the other arches, and also notice the size of them. But that pointy top, if that was in your body and those pillars on each side were your legs, that pointy arch would stop the flow of qi from your left leg to your right leg or vice versa. So it won't work in Qigong or the martial arts. All right? But a catenary arch like the St. Louis arch, there's no point. The energy can flow freely from side to side without any obstruction. And this is a big arch. It weighs, I'm sure, 100,000 tons or more, and yet it has there's no problem with it standing up because the compression weight of the arch itself goes down perfectly, block by block by block, into the ground. So it's incredibly stable and grounded. So here is the whole cathedral. On the bottom left, you can see the chains, and all those little weights on there are just to cause the chains to hang down. The upper left is just the inverted photograph, and then on the right, he's got a drawing of one of the chains, or a photograph of one of the chains, and up above is one of the layouts for the brickwork. And notice the white line inside that upper one. That's the chain. So when these guys were riding horses, they figured out naturally that in order to do this, and by the way, turn around and shoot arrows at people, you had to use a catenary arch. So there are three heights in general of arches that we use with our legs. Low arch, a medium arch, and a high arch. Now, we're not going to do any low arch work. That's for much younger people. I used to do it years ago, but I don't do it anymore. As you get a little older, it gets hard on your knees and your back. It's great for young people, though. All right? But let's look at some low arch. All right, here's a guy in low arch. Now, he's got a beautiful horse stance. In the old days in China, what they would do to test you when you had learned to form is they would take a fishing net and 4 poles, and they would stretch that net out so it was just an inch above this guy's head. And then they would have him do the whole form without his head ever touching the net. And a form might be, depending on the form, 10 or 20 or even 30 minutes. This is one of the Chen teachers in Chen Village, also in a low stance, but I wanted you to see his naked feet. He's barefoot. Now he's in a gym where he doesn't have to worry about dog do or broken glass or something. Don't do this outside. But if you're in a safe place, it's great to do horse stance, whether low or medium or high, in bare feet. It'll really give your feet a workout. And notice the sweat on his shirt there in the middle. One of the great things about horse stance, it takes, to get to this guy's level would take 5 years of work, hard work. And we're not going to go there. But what it does is it exercises the calf muscles, or excuse me, the thigh muscles and the butt muscles and the lower back, and those are your major muscle systems. And it will increase your overall vitality and strength just unbelievably. It's kind of remarkable. So here are a couple guys doing push hands, not as a competitive sport, but as a training sport. The guy on the right is Chen Zhonglai, he's always been one of my favorites. I don't know the guy on the left. He's obviously European. So they're in doing moving sequences, of course. And here's one of my favorite Tai Chi practitioners. It's a young lady who won the gold medal in one of the World Tai Chi Championships, maybe 2012. I can't remember now. Let's see. There should be a little video of her here. Okay, and then we go on to the middle height. And here's Grandmaster Feng, our Grandmaster, right? Now, he's probably 70 years old there. But you'll notice he's in a horse stance. It's just not as low as it used to be when he was a young man. And here's my favorite. This is one of Master Feng's students, Madame Gao Fu. In this picture, she's 81 years old, and her horse stance is gorgeous. She was a remarkable Tai Chi player. And this picture is actually taken on a pier in Lake Washington up in Seattle. After she learned Tai Chi for 20 years with Grandmaster Feng, she moved to the United States and taught in Seattle for years. And really, her Tai Chi is extraordinarily beautiful. When I saw this picture, this magazine cover, in a newsstand in San Francisco, and I knew I didn't know her, never heard of her before, but just taking a look at her, I knew immediately she was a student of Master Feng's. Look how her toes are open, her knees are open, her pelvis is open. She's sitting down and very lightly tucking her tailbone. And then she's just relaxing into that. You think, well, that's a lot of work. Well, it is at first, particularly when you don't really kind of have all the details. But once you really get this and you work up a little strength, you just relax into it like you're in a big chair. And notice her arms. She's got some power in her arms, but they don't look stiff. Her shoulders are relaxed, her elbows are relaxed. And even though she's standing up quite straight, even her spine is relaxed. This is Cheng Chung Lai again. He's in a middle horse stance. You saw him in that lower horse stance when he was doing push hands with some guy. But as you get a little older, when you're teaching classes, you just use a middle horse stance. Okay, high horse stances. So we're back to the buildings that Gaudi did. You have these very high arches, but they're natural arches, catenary arches. And here's my teacher. It's a little harder to see, particularly because his uniform is a little blousy. But in fact, he's standing with his toes open, his knees open, and his pelvis open. And he's sitting down slightly. Grandmaster Feng, this is the only time I've ever seen him smile when he was doing a form. Somebody just told him a joke. All right, knees open, pelvis open. His weight's quite a bit on the right leg, but nevertheless, it's a horse stance. A high horse stance. Here's a wonderful teacher who lives in a little town in Washington. Horse stance. Toes slightly open, knees slightly open, pelvis open. Sit down slightly. And here we are back to Madame Gao Fu. Just look at pictures of her and absorb them, because if you can do what she's doing, you will become a real Tai Chi player. I think that is it. Yes, that is it.
And she didn't start until she was much older.
Yeah, Madame Gao Fu did not start Tai Chi until she was 55 years old. So it is possible to start at an older age and become a superb player. She's just outstanding. Well, of course, that ran longer than I thought it was going to. We'll probably have to, in order to do these exercises, go into the next hour a little bit, but that's okay. So get yourself up. Unless you've got a broken ankle, get yourself up. Right? And if you can, adjust your cameras and your stance so I can see your whole body, especially your feet. See, if I just practice like this, you're not going to see what's going on. Now, you need to see my whole body. Okay. All right. So you start your weight to the left, open in a circle about shoulder width for your feet, and then point your feet straight forward and now open them up a little bit, just a few inches, and then open the knees, all right? So they're going around this way, not in front, but around to left and right. And what happens when you do that is it's going to open your pelvis. All right, so why are we starting with the horse stance rather than with the Dan Qian? The Dan Qian is the heart of the energy body. Isn't that a logical place to start? No, because the Dan Qian rests inside a cup, and the cup is supported by the legs. So you have to pay attention to the foundation before you look at the Dan Qian. All right? So, all right, here's my little wooden Dan Qian. All right? It sits in a cup. It sits in the pelvic cup. And I mean the word cup is not just poetry. It literally is a kind of bowl or cup here. And there are many ways not to have a cup, and there's one good way to have a cup, and that good way to have it is in a horse stance. If you stand, hold this for me. If you stand with your knees, try this. Lock your knees. Lock your knees back. Right? Lock your pelvis. Right? Can you feel that everything is closed now? There's no energy flowing anywhere. Right? And what happens is the shape of the energy body comes up and it comes to a point. And that stance is called a jiandan, which means an arrowhead-shaped groin. So your groin is shaped like this energetically because you've locked everything up there. Now, nothing can flow because qi does not flow very well through an acute angle. It'll flow fine through this. It just won't flow very well through this. All right? So in essence, you've kind of flattened your bowl out or just destroyed your bowl. Instead, you want the groin, the whole area here, right, to form a really nice bowl. And then the Dan Qian can fit inside that bowl, and it's free to move. And since all movement is going to start and end in the Dan Qian, that's what you want. Right? You want to be able to move your qi in any direction without any trouble. Right? So Annie's going to play with my Dan Qian over there. So open the toes, open the knees. That's just going to automatically open the pelvis and open the hip joints, which are right here. And then just sit down, exactly like you're sitting on a horse. If you've ever been on a horse, this is exactly what it feels like. You're going to tuck the tailbone just very slightly, not like this, all right? But just gently, like you're sitting in a saddle.
For me, it feels like more like I'm straightening my spine as opposed to tucking my tailbone.
Most Tai Chi books and articles talk about tucking the tailbone, so I was using that. But Annie is right. When you say tucking the tailbone, often you get the picture of going like this. That's not what you're doing. What you're really doing when you're tucking the tailbone is not doing this. What you're doing is going down.
Yeah.
So when you go down, it lengthens and straightens the spine, just naturally. However, it does feel like you're tucking it a little. But if you just remember what it's like to sit in the saddle on a horse, that's exactly the feeling. And then you may feel, oh, that really activates my hip joints and my knee joints. Because remember, if you're going to ride a horse, if you're a Mongolian horse warrior, and you're going to ride that horse, you're holding onto the horse with your thighs between your knees and your hips. That's what's keeping you on the horse. Right? So this is being activated. Okay. If you can do this stance in all the exercises we do, you will build your physical strength very quickly. It will really help you ground yourself and relax your body, particularly your upper body, because you've got such a strong foundation. If you don't have a strong foundation, what ends up happening is you're just sort of floating around. Right? But if you've got a strong foundation, even if it's a high horse stance like this, right? Can you see the difference between this and that? This and that. Right? When you work in that horse stance like that, that's when you can actually do Tai Chi and Qigong. So let's do a few exercises. We're not going to do the low exercises in Qigong or in Tai Chi. In Tai Chi particularly, you got to work for years to work up to that. We do one exercise in Qigong that actually is a low stance, but it's a centered stance, so it's fairly easy to do. And we're going to do it here for a minute. However, do not do this exercise if it bothers your knees or your hips or your ankles or your lower back. Just don't do it, right? Because it's not good for you. Anyhow, it's a squat, right? When you squat, you are now in a low horse stance, and try it on one side. And then the right side. Right, and then I call this a prayer position. In yoga, it's called malasana. Center. And you use your elbows to press your knees out, left and right. Okay, and then hands on the knees. Now notice I don't bring my knees in yet. I put my hands on my knees, and the way I come up is by pressing on my hands. Right? That'll relieve a lot of the strain in the lower body, the lower part of the trunk here. So that's Qigong in a very low horse stance, and I think that's maybe the only exercise we do in a low stance like that. I got a list here that I want to go through. Middle stance. If you're just beginning in this, or if you have any problem with any of your joints, or if you're just beginning and need to build your strength up, don't even go into a middle stance. Just stay in a high stance. There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean it. However, if you can work toward more of a middle stance, maybe not for every exercise, but for some exercises, it will really help your vitality and your strength. Right? Now, to do any good, like everything else in Tai Chi and Qigong, you got to do it every day. But right, so I'm going to start in really a pretty high horse stance and do the exercise that I was showing you guys earlier this week in the morning Qigong class. So I'm going to use a hook hand like this, right? And I'm going to put it here, back here on my Ming Men. Right? That hand is holding on to something. And what it's holding on to is a thread that goes right through my body and comes out in my center chest. And I'm going to put this hand here to indicate that. A high horse, and Annie's getting down into a middle horse stance. That's good. Right? You don't, when you do this, when you train this, Don't overtrain. You'll just hurt yourself. Find a comfortable place. Where's your comfort level? Oh, I'm comfortable right here. Good. Now go down 1 inch. That's all. Do that for a week. The next week, go down another inch. All right? Just do this very, very gradually over time. So we do this on the one side, and then we're going to come and do it on the other side. And then we're going to practice in the center. Yes, Kevin?
Is there a weight distribution change when you do any of this?
When you're doing any of these exercises like this, just let your weight go natural. When you're on one side or the other, right? So I'm probably going to have my weight on the right side here, and now on the left side. And when you're in the middle, don't even worry about it. Just let it shift. What you don't want to do is just get 50-50. Right? And I'll show you why. So Annie, do what you're doing and go exactly 50-50. Exactly 50-50. Got it? Now move one foot. You can't do it. You can't move when your weight's 50-50. So just let yourself sort of sway in the wind. Doesn't matter. And that's true for any of these exercises. Right? This exercise, yes, right? Some exercises have a shape to them. You should follow that. But some of them don't. And you'll be able to recognize the difference between the two. Right? If you can, right, work it up to where you are in a horse stance. A middle horse stance. Right? So what we've been doing is 1 minute on the left, 1 minute on the right, and 1 minute in the center. Actually, I think we were just doing 30 seconds of each. You try that for 3 minutes and see how your thighs feel. Even 3 minutes, you will really feel it. Do you feel a little burn in your thighs?
A little bit.
Yeah. The horse stance is a big deal in the martial arts in China. So they really train, and one of the trainings, I think I had it on the invitation to the morning classes for a couple of days. Jackie Chan was doing something called 5 cups of tea, and you get into a true horse stance, right? And then they put a cup of tea on each of the thighs. They could have put a cup of tea on each of the shoulders, and they put a cup of tea on the head. And you have to stand like that until your teacher tells you to break and without spilling any tea. And the length of time is so ridiculous, it seems impossible. So they might stand in that stance for an hour without moving. They will put a sharpened bamboo stick underneath your butt. Then you go, well, that's impossible. Oh, yes, it would be impossible for me. But just like with the Olympics, they work up to it gradually over years worth of work, and they do it every day for, an hour. Yeah, Kevin.
My friend Ken went to the Shaolin Temple, and he was in the horse stance. Your thighs are parallel to the ground, and then the masters would come over and they would get and stand on his thighs while he was in the horse stance.
And they usually smile when they're doing it. Not at Shaolin. They don't smile at Shaolin, but, right, what he said is absolutely true. So a guy will get down, right, into a horse stance, and then the teacher will come and stand on his thighs. And you have to stay there without moving. Nobody could do that the first time. You'd really hurt yourself. You have to work up to it. That's a great game for young people. And it is kind of it's kind of just a thing in China, It's not what we're doing, but even a moderately middle horse stance or high horse stance will change your all your practices and will really increase the vitality in the body. It's amazing what it does.
The other thing is it is the lower pump that gets your fluids out of the bottom of your body, your legs, your thighs, back up into the upper torso. So it's like another heart,
Yeah,
another pump.
it is. This
And
is
the stronger it is, the better your lymphatic system is, the better the removal of the toxins from your body.
that's everything Andy said is absolutely true. And this is what makes Tai Chi really possible. This is a horse stance. All right? That stance is a lot of work. I could feel my breath coming a little harder now after 30 seconds of it. But it's what makes things work for you.
It makes you feel very powerful. And from a psychological point of view, it gets me into my warrior energy.
Yes, it
And
does.
let me tell you, right now, I need to be in my warrior energy.
And we all need a little warrior right now. Yeah, that's really true. It is an enormous psychological boost. I think just to make yourself a little bit of a goal, and then to achieve that goal. So don't put the goal up here. Just put the goal here, and then get to that goal, and then you can go a little farther, and then you can go a little farther. Pretty soon, you're a little farther along. I want to do a few more exercises, but we're a few minutes past the hour. If you have to go, go ahead and go. I'm recording all this, so it'll be up, and I'll make sure everybody gets a recording. But I want to do a few more exercises. I know Jill and Catherine and Kevin are here for the advanced Tai Chi class, but this just melds right into it. So let's just continue. Everybody else who has to go, go ahead and go. We'll see you next time. Okay. The waist. I wanted to do a little work on the waist because one aspect of working with a horse stance is to work with your hip joints, and this is really important. So I'm going to put my hip joints on. And here's my Dan Chen. So remember, the Dan Chen is sitting in this bowl. Right? And you can even say the hip joints here are defining the edges of this bowl. So there's a bowl here, and the Dan Chen fits right inside this bowl. And what you want is for the Dan Chen to kind of rest in there comfortably. But what happens when you're going to turn? Suppose I decide I want to turn over here. What we sort of all do without thinking about it much is just kind of ruin that structure and turn in this direction. So instead, when you practice Qigong and Tai Chi, you got to learn how to deal with your ability to turn. And the way you do that is you sink into these joints, right? And then if I'm going to turn this direction here, I'm going to sink in this joint. And that will just naturally turn the body. Or if I decide I want to go back the other way, now watch, this is the important thing. I'm going to do it wrong first. Now I'm going to do it right. Here's wrong. Here's right. What's wrong with this is you're turning the Danchan over. All right? This big ball here is turning over this way. When you do that, you're going to pull your energetic root out of the ground. Pull. Now I'm out of the ground. Now I push it over here and I push it down into the ground again. One thing, you've destroyed your grounding. The second thing is, it takes a long time, so to speak, to go from one side to another. That's a long way to go. What's the right way to do it? The right way to do it is to go under. It's a much shorter travel distance. Right? Boom, boom, boom. You're keeping your chi in the ground. Okay, so where do you practice it? You practice it everywhere. Every time you turn in any of these exercises. So suppose we just do this one. Now, people watch something like that, and what they end up doing, I'm going to come up close, what they end up doing is paying attention to the hands. Because the hands are sort of flash here. Watch this, right? Boom. Don't even watch the hands. Watch this. This is where everything happens in Tai Chi and Qigong, right? Watch. The hands are not the exercise. The exercise is what's going on down here. Now, if you're paying attention to the hands, okay, you think that's the exercise. Well, that doesn't really give you very much exercise. But if you as the practitioner are paying attention to this and you're moving like this, try that. Try 18 of those. It's not something that's difficult or anything, but it's a hell of a lot more exercise. Another thing you can do when you're doing this is pay attention to what happens to each hip joint, because your hip joints are in here. They're not out here, they're in here. Right? What is happening with this hip joint? What is happening with this hip joint? They're not the same. This hip joint is closing. In order for this hip joint to close, this hip joint must open. So you're opening in the blue and closing in the red. Now I'm going to close, I'm going to do this with my hands here. I'm going to go from a closed red, I'm going to close the blue, and that'll cause the red to open. Now the red closes, the blue opens. And you think, whoa, such a little thing. Yeah, it is, but everything rests on that pedestal. So to get that right will improve your Tai Chi literally 100% overnight. It makes it a lot more work. So don't start down like this. All right? Just get comfortable, all right? And start here. So if I'm doing this move like this, you might want to be doing it like this. But what you don't want to do, watch, is do it like this. That's useless. All right? So just let everything relax. Watch these two here for opening and closing while I do this move. Right? The red is closing, the blue is opening. Now the blue is closing, the red is opening. Now the red is closing, the blue is opening. Now the blue is closing, the red is opening. It's always that same simple pattern. So you just be aware of it, and when you practice in Qigong or in Tai Chi, what I used to do is this. There are so many pieces to this puzzle that you cannot keep all of them in your mind at the same time at the beginning. And by beginning, I mean the first 5 years. So instead, every week, just pick one thing to focus on. So maybe this week, I'm gonna focus on my hip joints. I'm not even gonna worry about all the other stuff. I'm not even gonna think about all the other stuff. I'm just going to pay attention mentally and physically. I'm just going to pay attention to the hip joints, for instance, etc. Annie always likes us to do lazy dragon. It's one of the silk reeling exercises. Lazy dragon is actually a very difficult exercise. And it's very difficult exactly because of the hip joints and then the waist. So sometimes you can just talk about the hip joints as the pelvis, right? The bone in here, right? And then the waist is up above that. For many people, in fact, most people when they begin, their hips and their waists are locked together. So to move one, they have to move the other. But that won't work in the martial arts. You have to be able to differentiate them and move them separately. Energetically, you cannot differentiate the waist from the hips very, very much physically. You can do it, but it's only a few inches. But when you just look at the energy, it's much different. So a lot of folks, watch this, do silk reeling like this. There's no involvement down here. But the exercise, or at least more than half the exercise is down here. Oh, it's involved with this and with turning. This is about turning back, turning back, turning back, turning back. And the only way to do that is to pay attention to the hip joints and the bowl with the dantian in it there. Does that make sense, Kevin? Master Zhang was really good at this move, particularly when he was a little younger. Really high stances, and we'll maybe finish with these in Qigong. When you're doing meditation, a real classic meditation stance is like this. You should be in a horse stance. Shouldn't be like this. Should be open a little bit. Open your toes, your knees, and your hips. Open your pelvis. Let the dantian rest in that bowl. Everything just rests. Boom. I saw a picture of someone doing standing meditation the other day. They looked like this. Does that look relaxed to you? No, it doesn't to me either. It should be relaxed, but that means your structure needs to be correct. The Lao Gong in the center of the palm, point at the Dan Shen. Relax your shoulders, relax your elbows and wrists. All right. Let your whole upper body go into the Dan Shen, and let the Dan Shen rest in the bowl. Open the hips, open the knees, open the toes. Okay, Catherine, stand there for an hour. We're going to lunch. We'll be right back. They used to truly do that. They truly would do that. They'd get you in that, and then they would go, okay, me and the other teachers, we're going to lunch. We'll be back in a couple hours. You still be here standing, and they meant it. What?
Would they check up on you?
Hell yes, they would come back, and they expected you to still be there.
No. I mean, like randomly
Oh, no.
throughout the 2 hours.
No, it's an honor system.
Oh, okay.
Nobody can do 2 hours of this unless you've worked up to it. Doing 10 minutes is quite difficult at first. However, there are really good Tai Chi players in China who do no other exercises except standing meditation. Because standing meditation is the best mirror there is. Right? Why can you not do this for 2 hours without any trouble? It won't take very long. You're gonna find pain in your body. In your shoulders, in your arms, in your chest, in your back, in your knees, and all that pain is telling you where you're doing it wrong. If you have pain in your shoulders, something's wrong. Of course, it's the lactic acid building up. But the question is, why is the lactic acid building up? There are people, like Grandmaster Feng, who would stand there and do this for 2 hours without any problem. And then they would stop and salute, and they would go do their Tai Chi, and there's no pain and there's no stiffness. Because Master Feng did standing meditation for an hour every morning for 11 years when he was working with Hu Yao Chen. And one of the things you learn from that is all the ways you are failing to support your energy body with your physical body. You're doing it wrong. All right? If you've locked your pelvis so you have a gendon, well, you stand like that for a while, you're going to get so uncomfortable you won't be able to do it past 10 minutes or so. So you go, all right, and your teacher's going to go, all right, where does it hurt? Well, it hurts here. What are you doing wrong? Now, if he's a traditional teacher, he's not going to tell you what you're doing wrong. He's going to ask you what you're doing wrong. What are you doing wrong? I don't know. Well, then you need to go home and practice and find out. Because just giving somebody the answer is no answer. It's not their answer, it's your answer. They've got to find their own answer. They're probably going to find it's the same as your answer, but they need to find it. You need to go through that process. Tai Chi and Qigong are processes of self-discovery. If they're not that, then they're nothing at all. Okay, Feng Zhong Gong. I think we've all studied a little Feng Zhong Gong, right? Relaxation exercises. High horse stance. Okay. Inside. This side's closing, this side's opening. Now, the red is closing, the yellow's, or the blue is opening. The blue's closing, the red's opening, right? It's a very subtle movement. It's meant to be subtle. But inside, everything is moving. Everything is moving very gently. You can't do that if you're not in a horse stance. It won't work because it'll be locked up in here. Shoulder exercises. Maybe we can finish with these. Now, all the horse stances I've been talking about, your feet are side by side. But you should know from doing exercises in Qigong and in Tai Chi that very often they're not side by side. Instead, one foot is back and one foot is forward. But you can still be in a horse stance. The toes are open slightly, the knees are open, and the pelvis is open, and you sit down slightly in the saddle. All right? Now you work out of that flexibility. Watch the blue and the red. The blue closes, the red closes. The blue closes, the red closes. All these exercises all work on exactly the same principles. So maybe the first thing you're trying to, and I'm going to come up here so it's close enough you can see. One of the first things, the first and last thing in here is your whole body's doing this exercise, not one little part of it. So we're calling it a shoulder exercise, but it's not this. All right? What you're doing is moving the whole body. The red opens, the blue closes. Close, open. All right. So these are going like this, an opening and closing, and that pumps the chi through the body. If you're side by side. Let me do it wrong. So now I'm going to do it right. When I'm doing it wrong, I'm not keeping my chi down. It's not staying down in the bowl. It's coming up. And it'll throw you over backward. You can still move the shoulders really strongly while keeping your chi down. So when I'm going side to side, it still stays down. It's not coming up and then coming up. As long as we're doing this, let's do three things for the Tai Chi. This is from a form that you guys don't even know, right? But it's a good illustration. This is called shoveling, right? This goes up, but this doesn't come up. It goes down. Horse stance. Single whip. I illustrated this earlier. Horse stance. Watch. it's not so much what the physical body is what we can see. It's not about the physical body going down. It's about your energy body going down. All right? The cage and the hourglass itself, the glass hourglass, those don't move. What moves is the sand. That's the same, pretty much, in Tai Chi. All right? The physical body doesn't move that much. What's moving is the sand inside the body. The sand is dropping down inside the hourglass. Qigong Danqian, that's what that means. Down to the Danqian and then down into the ground. That's what keeps you grounded. High horse stance. Right? The beginning movement of the form. I'll do it at a little bit of an angle. Now you could do it like this. You do a much lower horse stance, but traditionally it's not done that way. It's done in a high horse stance. So you can play Tai Chi and Qigong in a high horse stance without any trouble and still keep the correct conformation, move your Qi along, develop your balance, develop your flexibility, develop your centering and your grounding, right? And all in a high horse stance. So if you happen to be 80 years old, right, that's no problem, honestly. It really is not a problem, as long as you spend a little time and effort to understand these basic principles and practice them so you actually get an experiential feeling of them. Now, how would your teacher determine whether you've achieved that? If we were in a live class, because they would push hands with you a little bit. Doesn't have to push much, doesn't have to push you out. All the teacher has to do is touch you. And through experience, you can feel whether somebody's actually grounded. You can feel whether they're actually centered and balanced. You can feel if there are blockages in their body. It's not mysterious. Any human being could do that. You just have to have experience, of course. And most people don't get that experience or don't look at it. But it's exactly if you've gone through the process of learning all this yourself and watching yourself and checking yourself and doing all these things, then you have developed a facility to deal with the energy body, and now you can apply it to other people. If you have not done that work on yourself, then you will not be able to do it with other people. It just depends on your own self-development in this. It's also really good for you, and it's quite challenging because somebody and I were talking last week, and maybe I wrote you guys a little note on it or something. Learning Tai Chi or Qigong is like trying to put together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Now imagine that you did not have the box with the picture of what the finished puzzle is supposed to look like. You just got 1,000 pieces that somebody throws them on the table and says, put them together. It's possible, sure. I mean, it's possible. You can look at, well, that one's got a little orange, and number 953 has a little orange. Maybe they go together. I don't know. And eventually you will get it together. But what a teacher tries to do is provide you with that picture. So I hope that this session has helped in that process. When you go into any of these classes or exercises, apply what we talked about, and guaranteed it will increase your speed of putting your 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle together. And by the way, when you get your 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle together, you will look at it and you go, oh, it was really quite simple. It's actually very simple. It's just the learning process is quite difficult. Okay, guys, give me 5 minutes, and then Catherine and Jill and all 4 of you maybe will stay for the class. But give me 5 minutes here. I'll be right back.